If you earn a great income but still feel uncertain about your financial future, today's episode of the Wealth Cafe is going to be for you. Throughout my financial planning practice, I work with so many individuals and couples that they on paper earn a fantastic salary, but they can't figure out a couple different things. Number one, why they're living paycheck to paycheck. Number two, why they don't actually feel wealthy. Or number three, why they feel like they can't succeed in building wealth. We're going to spend some time today unpacking a couple reasons why this is happening. And I also want to give you some actionable steps that you can use in your own life in order to feel like you are moving the needle and actually building wealth going forward. One of the biggest problems that I see when it comes to many high earners is that they look and they see on paper they earn a fantastic income. They're probably doing a lot of the right things, like they are maxing out their 401k, they are paying all of their bills, they don't carry credit card debt, they are doing all the things that they quote unquote should be. But they don't really feel like they are building wealth. And it's a lot of times because they're living paycheck to paycheck. And here's what happens. It's not necessarily the $7 latte that's the problem. It's not because they like to go to Whole Foods or because they enjoy going on vacation once or twice a year. Maybe even 3 to 4 times if we're being honest. It's because they don't have a plan and a strategy when it comes to building wealth, I'll say outside of their 401k. A lot of times it's something when I'm going through a client's financial statements, and I actually did this with a prospective client last week. We opened up their financial statement. She was maxing out her 401k and she said, whatever else comes in, I just spend freely because I earn a great income and I feel like that's what I should be doing and that's what everyone tells me I should be doing. And I paused and I was just kind of smiled and laughed to myself because of how many times, number one, she said the term should, but also because I've heard this story so many times. And you see with high earners time and time again, it's, hey, I'm doing better than the average. I feel like I should be able to spend freely, but they then kind of get to this point where they realize, I don't know that I'm building wealth, and they want to start planning for the future. One of the other big things that I often see is that they don't know where they want to be. There is that like little light bulb moment that's going on behind their heads and they're thinking, I know I should be planning for the future, but they don't even know what that future looks like. And a lot of times I will see with clients, it's because they have very demanding careers. They are in an industry or in a profession that requires them to be working a lot of hours, that's requiring a lot of brain power. So to then have to stop and say, you know what, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to plan what I want my financial future to look like. I want to think about some of my bigger goals. I want to look at my investments. That becomes a second job for them. And so many of us don't want to do that after we're working a long day and doing so many different things. It can be exhausting. So it gets pushed to the side and put on that never-ending to-do list. And building wealth and creating a financial plan, it's put on the back burner. But you know what? It is 2026. It is a new year. So I want to make sure if you fall into this category that this is something that you are prioritizing. The third thing that I see is so many people fall into the lifestyle trap. And I talked about the shoulds, right? You should be doing these things. You should be able to go out and spend freely and buy what you want. But I also then see the shoulds that happen of you should be able to, and you should go out and buy a luxury car. You should go out and buy a second home. And a lot of people don't pause and think, do I actually want these things? And it becomes this endless cycle. And a lot of people will call that lifestyle creep. But what I find is that when I start having conversations, especially in introductory meetings with clients, is that they end up purchasing or investing in things that they may not actually want. I had this happen a couple years ago. I was sitting down with a client, and this is a story I share frequently, is that this client was struggling to save for a down payment on their home. She loved to travel. She was doing a little bit of the digital nomad expedition and was going all throughout both the US and international. And when we had a conversation about a year into our relationship, I said, it doesn't really seem like you are aligned and putting your effort and your finances and money into saving for this down payment. I said, I know you pretty well at this point. Can I just ask you point blank, is this something you want? And she paused and she sat for a minute and she was like, I really don't. But you know what? My family tells me I have to buy a house. My parents tell me this is something I need to do. And she just felt that immense pressure. But it wasn't what she wanted to do. And this goal wasn't aligned with what her desired outcome was. So achieving it was becoming impossible. It's not the way she wanted to be building wealth. So for her, she had that cognitive dissonance going on and she wasn't able to achieve it because it's not what she truly wanted. And I see this happen time and time again with high earners is that if it's not something they want, but social media, parents' pressure, people at work are telling them this is something they should be doing, it's so easy for them to fall into this and feel like they should be purchasing something or doing something just because that's the norm. And going back to my previous point, it is essential to sit back and take some time and say, what do I really want and want for my goals and my financial future? Ignoring so many of these things is why so many high earners struggle to really build wealth. Now, we've covered a couple different reasons on why this struggle happens. I want us to dive into what the heck do you do about it if you're a person that feels like, yeah, you know what, I really am that high earner and I need to really set up my financial future in 2026. The first thing you need to do is start with a plan. Whether that's something you want to do on your own or whether you need the accountability of working with a financial advisor, some type of financial professional, that's going to be a game changer for you. I find when I'm working with a lot of clients, for them, it's that accountability. They know we're going to have a meeting and that there are to-do lists. They know I'm going to give them homework or things that they have to do and things that they have to find, and that we are really going to sit down and create a checklist, and they have that accountability. And it is not because my clients are not incredibly smart people. They need somebody that is going to force them to take the time and tell them, hey, here's what you need to do. The other part of creating a plan, especially if you are working with someone else, is that they are going to take on a lot of the mental load and the brain capacity that so many of us just don't have time for at the end of the day. They are going to sit there and they are going to say, hey, here's the things that we need to be focused on. One of the first things I also make clients do when I'm starting a relationship with them is I make them do what's called a dream builder journal. I tell them to have fun with it. I say, hey, take 45 minutes, take an hour, pour a glass of wine, a cup of coffee, light a candle, and I have them think about all of these different time periods in their life and what they want to achieve. And things are going to change, and I give them that disclaimer, but having this homework and knowing that we have an upcoming meeting forces them to finally do that checklist item and actually sit down and say, what do I want? Like I said before, it is something that so many of us push off and don't face because if no one's holding you accountable, what's the point? And as we are going through this process, in order to build the plan, we start with, okay, what are your goals? And then we sit there and actually take a look at their finances. And this is where we get a clear picture on where we are right now. And this is something, once again, so many high earners don't have the time to do, but when you are sitting down working with somebody else, it forces you to do this. And a lot of people think, I don't need an advisor, I can do this myself, I'm smart. But the question is, do you have the time? Are you going to make this a priority? And also, is this something where if you work with an advisor, they're actually going to help you move forward because you keep putting this on that never-ending to-do list? The second thing that you need to be doing is working with professionals. And if you are going to hire either a financial advisor, an accountant, or an estate attorney, work with people that are going to move your financial future forward rather than just help you check off a box. Anyone can go out and find an advisor or some type of accountability coach that's going to force you to look at your money and say, yeah, great, you're spending too much on lattes. Hey, you're spending too much on travel. Or is this person going to sit back with you and say, here's the lifestyle you want to build. Here are strategies that we can actually use in order to help you and move forward in your future. Those are two very different distinctions. And I get a lot of people that come to me and they say, yeah, my advisor just tells me to save more, save more. But the answer and the question that I ask them is, why? Why are we saving more? How much are we saving? What is the purpose behind what we're doing? And for so many high earners, they're often high achievers. They need to know that why behind everything they are doing in order to say, okay, this goal makes sense. And when you have somebody who is a specialist and a strategist in what you're doing, that is going to make all the difference. That way you're building a team moving you forward rather than just doing that checklist item of, great, I have a plan, things are happening. The third thing to think of when you are really trying to focus on building your wealth is understanding all of the different aspects to your wealth and your financial plan. Now, this is going to be everything from what are your assets and what are your liabilities? Yes, your plain old balance sheet. But there's a little bit more to it than that, especially for high earners. They typically have more intricate compensation plans. Now, this could be everything from what is your employer offering you in terms of equity compensation, RSUs, options. It could be certain things that maybe you're not thinking about. A lot of us on paper forget where we have different investments. Now, I want to make sure that you start off this year fully understanding the compensation and the benefits that you are being offered, because this adds to the wealth that you are building, and you can also be utilizing so many of these tools and resources to further build wealth in your life. A lot of people forget some of the things we're being offered. We look at, here's our bonus, here's our salary, here's our 401k match, here's how much we're contributing to our 401k, and that's it. Your compensation is probably so much more than that. And especially too, maybe this year you are looking at a job, taking a look at what you are offered in terms of benefits and compensation is something you should know and have in your back pocket as you're negotiating for new roles, but also into the future as you are looking to build wealth. Now, it's going to vary if you work for a private versus a public company. With a publicly traded company, it's a lot easier to just go online, look up the ticker symbol, and see how much your shares are worth, especially if they are already vested to you. If you work for a private company, it becomes a little more difficult, especially if you have options versus traditional equity in that company. And you can explore, we have some other episodes on this, and I'm going to continue to talk about it this year on what that valuation actually looks like and how do you factor that into your financial plan. Now, if you are somebody that is offered equity compensation as a big part of your benefits package and as your compensation and salary, you should be working with a financial advisor that understands the intricacies of this, because it can play into your wealth building so differently depending on what you are offered. Now, building wealth can be a complex situation, and there are so many different sides of it, from the emotional and mental to the actual on paper and how you are putting things together. I encourage you this year to, especially if it's at the top of, hey, here's my goals and ideas for the year of what I want to accomplish. If putting together a financial plan and building wealth this year is on your to-do list, I hope listening to this episode encourages you to move it to the top of the priority list and actually get moving on this. Now, the first thing to do is then to reach out to either myself or another financial advisor that you feel comfortable with and say, hey, I want to get started. I want to make the most of this year and into the future and really move from just being a high earner to actually building wealth. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you on another episode of The Wealth Cafe.